Hello, 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 everyone. We want you to come on into the live. We are all the way live here on the My Favorite Girl Caregivers Corner podcast. And before we get started in our conversation on tonight, I am going to give you just a moment to go ahead and share. Go ahead and share it on your platforms. I'm going to take a moment and share it on mine as well. But we are live right now. It's been a minute since I've actually done a live podcast, but I felt it very necessary to go live on tonight. And so I'm going to give you an opportunity to go ahead and share, like it, share it, and then we're going to go ahead and get into the conversation. I'm running this, so if I seem a little bit, looking back and forth, that's because I'm actually running this live. Usually I have Kaylin to run it for me, but she's not on tonight. So I'm running it and we're going to have the conversation. So share it right quickly with as many people as you can. And do me a favor once you come in and just let me know where it is you are tuning in from. All right. I'm going to give you just a few moments to do that. And then we're going to jump on into the conversation. So take a moment right now, do that. You can also like and subscribe to the podcast. As you all know, my name is Priscilla Jean-Louis, and I am the host of the My Favorite Girl Caregivers Corner podcast. And we're just going to go ahead. People will jump on. I see about 6 of them on Facebook already. So they're beginning to share. They're getting on. And so we're going to go ahead. I have the pleasure on tonight, and I'm honored to be joined today by 2 distinguished guests. I have Miss Josie Fliger, and I hope I pronounce your name wrong probably every time I do it, but at any rate, she is the CEO of Elder Care Services. And then I also have Mrs. LaFonda Heidel, the CEO of Kids Incorporated of the Big Bend, on here with me tonight. And what we are doing tonight, tonight's discussion, we are holding it live. I wanted to name it a live town hall. We want to give you all the opportunity to be able to ask questions, be able to give your comments as well. Good to see you on, Whitney. Whitney is the Memory Disorder Clinic Coordinator here in Tallahassee. Very good supporter, a very good friend. And she's on. Thank you so much. She's also sharing it. When you all come on, just let me know where you're watching from. But as I was saying, we're holding this live discussion tonight because this is a very, very critical conversation. We're talking about the current status of the AmeriCorps senior funding. I've titled this "What's at Stake for Elder Care Services and Our Community." And I wanted to be able to talk about this. Good to see you, Miss Diane. She's on as well, another caregiver. She's on the live as well. Thank you so much. Please share it with others. But I wanted to talk about this. I saw Josie's post the other week, and I've had her on the podcast before. Some of you may remember seeing her on the podcast. And at that particular time, we were talking about elder care services and the benefit that it is for those here in our community. One of the things that I have been doing over the years is being able to build resources for caregivers, for those who are caregivers in our area, just letting them know what resources we have out there. And so I had Josie on and we talked about elder care services. Well, we have now funding. That's the bottom line. There's funding for AmeriCorps seniors that is basically being held up. It's being compounded. These are funds that were allocated by Congress to be dispersed for this new fiscal year. And Josie, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's somewhere around $800,000 that you all were looking to have that it's been held up. Right. And so that's the whole purpose of this conversation on tonight. We want you all to be able to hear what's going on. We see it. If you're keeping up with the news. Can't digest much of it. I realize I try not to because it can be depressing. However, I do think that we should all be aware of what's going on in the news because one way or the other, we are going to be impacted by it if we do not take the opportunities like we're doing tonight to talk about it, to rally up and see what it is that we can do to reach out to those who are in office. We elected them to represent us. We are their constituents, and they should be representing us and no other agenda. And so that is what this is all about tonight. We have programs like the foster grandparent and senior companion programs that are they're sitting out there hanging in the balance. We don't know when the funding is gonna come in. And so during this conversation, we're gonna unpack this issue. We're gonna hear from those that are being affected. Josie's gonna tell us a little bit about how it's impacting their services, as well as LaFonda. LaFonda, as I stated, is the CEO of Kids Incorporated. They are recipients of the grandparents program. She's gonna let us know the impact that it's having or will have on their particular program. And so that's what we want to talk about tonight. So Josie, LaFonda, thank you all so very much for taking up taking out of your time tonight to be with us, to share with our listeners what's going on. And so again, before we get into this, if you're on, like it, share it. Feel free as we're talking. If you have a question, put it in the chat. If you have a comment, put it in the chat. We want to hear what you have to say, your engagement. It's valued, it's necessary, and we're going to go from there. So Josie, even as we are looking at this, I read on the Voices for National Services press release they did. They said that the Office of Management and Budget, which we know as OMB, they have impounded approximately $200 million in fiscal for the 2025 funds for the AmeriCorps program across the country. Now, this is not just elder care. We're also talking about we're in hurricane season right now. Just had the floods in Texas. AmeriCorps volunteers also go out and they help during the storms. That impact is going to be great as well. But as it relates to our own community here and the services that you all provide through your agency, you oversee the foster grandparent program, the senior companion care, RSVP and STAR programs across the Big Bend. Can you describe for us what an average week looks like for you and how this delay in federal funding is impacting your operations today?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for highlighting this, Priscilla, and for having me on. And I always love seeing LaFonda. I just think the world of both of you. So thank you for including me. These programs are so impactful. Elder Care has been the recipient, the grantee of these programs since 1991. So they have such a long-standing history in our community. And they've actually been around nationally since the 60s. And the reason that they've been around so long is because that they work, right? Like, not only do they provide care to the most vulnerable in our community, they are so fiscally responsible. The amount of money that goes into funding these programs, the impact is tenfold beyond that, because our foster grandparents are in schools and daycares, and they're sitting with kids that need just a little bit of extra help that a paraprofessional or a teacher wouldn't be able to provide. But besides doing that mentoring and tutoring, helping them get on grade level, they're also doing social modeling. We've had children who's had come from homes that were so tumultuous, and that grandparent was like a centering place for them, a safe place for them. When I first came to Elder Care, I was the director of volunteers, so I was engaged in these programs, managing these programs day to day. I remember one time a child assigned to a grandma, her parent passed away, and she said, "Can my grandma come with me to the funeral?" So it's
Oh,
not just we all want to have changes in our society. We want it safer. We want kids to be, um, valued and have security, and that's what these programs do. The senior companion programs, they go and break down those social isolation walls of other seniors. There's a really compelling statistic that if you're socially isolated, it's as bad for your physical health as smoking 14 cigarettes a day. And so
wow.
when we see isn't that crazy? When we see seniors that are socially isolated, now our physical health is going down, and we're taking more expensive ambulance rides and hospital stays. And so see how it compounds. It's not just, and I'm a social worker, I love the feel good aspect. I know that it works. It's making people's lives better, but it's also a fiscally responsible program. So at Elder Care, we are placing over 100 volunteers into those two programs. We're working with our community partners to make sure their needs are addressed. We're providing support to those volunteers. In exchange, the volunteers get a very small stipend. It's not a job, but it's something that keeps them engaged in their community. We've asked them, because I love data, so I'm always asking them, what can I do better? What can I do for you? But I asked them last time in our survey, tell me what you use that stipend for. And they said medication, co-pays, car insurance, light bills. I mean, we're going to thrust over 100 volunteers, senior volunteers, most of them women, further into poverty. And it's just unconscionable. The reason the programs have been around for so long, they've enjoyed tremendous bipartisan support for decades, decades and decades. I would advocate for these programs in DC every year. I was the president of a national board that supported these programs. And every time we went to Congress, everybody was on board with it because they don't want older adults to be, in the poverty line. They don't want children unsupported. They don't want seniors socially isolated in their homes. Congress has given the money to these programs, and OMB is holding them up. And it's a really sad, unfortunate time for us.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, you're talking about over 60 years that this program has worked. It's not broken. It's proven to work. And here it is, being able to just take it away for no real reason. Right. And so, these grandparents, I mean, to not have one and to have one, but then, I mean, because I'm sure that some of these children are looking for these same grandparents to come back this next school year, or even LaFonda in your area. They're at Kids Incorporated at these daycares where they go. I'm sure that these babies look forward to seeing these grandparents, right? So how is it impacting you all at this particular point?
So currently, our centers are closed for the summer. So we close for 1 month just so that we can do major repairs and things like that to our centers. We reopen in August. And so, how this is going to impact Kids Incorporated is that our foster grandparents, they're assigned to a child with disabilities. And what this does with that child with disabilities is it gives them that one-on-one kind of care. It helps them emotionally, it helps them cognitively, it also helps them with their social skills as well. And so to not have that one-on-one for the development of that child with disabilities, it could really cause some issues with them as they grow and get older. So in our centers, we keep our children with disabilities in with typical children, and that is so that they can learn from the typical children, right? But you also have some of those children who have severe emotional disabilities,
Mhm.
and having that one-on-one care with that foster grandparent, it is it is needed. We must have that in our centers. It also supports the teachers. in the classrooms as well. Because when you have a child that say who's on the autism spectrum and they have those moments of they need someone there to hold them or to just show that love and compassion during that episode for that child, not to have that, it it's it causes more disruptions in the classrooms. And I will say too, when you have that extra pair of hands in the classroom, it also helps to have a better classroom management
Right.
for our centers as well. Being that our centers are infants, toddlers, and 2 year olds up to 3 year olds, um, sometimes having that extra pair of hands with that infant to rock that crying baby, it it's a must. It's a need. It's a necessity for our centers, and it's a necessity for the development of the children in the classrooms. So I would just say, you know, it's going to be missed. There will be a void. Um, and not only for my centers, that's other programming, other schools, other
Yeah.
classrooms. That's going to be a void in those classrooms to not have that foster grandparent or that elder companion in that classroom. That is going to be a true void. Um, I will also go on to say that our centers are like families. And so our teachers have connections with those foster grandparents. The foster grandparents look forward to coming into the centers on a daily basis, having something to do besides sitting home, you know, being able to get up, get dressed, know that they are needed.
Mm-hmm.
That is going to be missed.
Yeah.
That's a missed opportunity for our elders.
Yeah. And that's why this is so important too, because like you say, I mean, some of them, they need that something else to do. Like you retire and, even though retirement is great, but after a couple weeks, they're like, well, you know what? And so some of them just sit home and they end up just wasting away. And it's something about children that brings life to the elders as well. I remember, my grandmother before she passed away, you give her a baby doll and she's thinking it's a baby, and it brings so much more life to them. And so, and then you think about the fact too, when you talk about the children that are being served with disabilities. I know just having my mom with dementia, right? Her familiar, I am her familiar person. Everything in the world is right when her person is around. When I'm not here, and a lot of times I travel with work, and a lot of times prior to me going, it's almost like she can feel that I'm getting ready to go. And definitely when I'm not here. And so I imagine that being the same for those children when they are already used to a particular grandmother, and
Yeah.
then that person is gone. I know firsthand what those behaviors are like. And so, you know, that's going to be a lot if we don't get this funding in. Now, let me ask this question. And before I do that, thank you so much, Sharika, for being on. She's the owner of Collins Companion Care and Company. Thank you so much for joining us. When it comes to that, right? Um, in your instance, LaFonda, how does that impact your your financial are you all going to have to hire additional staff? How will that impact you financially? Because they're volunteers. Yes, they're getting a stipend from AmeriCorps, but you know, with them being gone, does that mean that you have to then hire more people, which then brings an impact financially for your organization? What does that look like?
So, with our partnership with Elder Care Services, we utilize the foster grandparents as a match because we can use volunteer hours as matching. And so each hour that a volunteer or a foster grandparent has in our centers, that equates to dollars for us. And so what that does is every dollar that we raise or every volunteer that donate an hour or two, that equates to dollars. So each dollar that we raise in the community, we can draw down $4 from our federal funds. So we're federally funded as well. And so what this does is this impacts how much we can draw down from our grant.
Mm.
And so with elder care services, that equates to approximately $300,000 a year for us in volunteer hours in dollars. So dollars and cents.
Yeah.
It means something to Kids Incorporated because that $300,000, think about it. That's
Yeah.
$1.2 million that we cannot draw
Can't
down
afford to lose it.
dollars.
Yeah.
And that is the impact for us when you talk about dollars and cents. And so it hurts us tremendously
Yeah.
because we lose a lot when we don't have the companions in the classrooms for our program.
Yeah. So as you can see, if you're listening, we're already there. This is some of what's at stake if this funding is not coming through. We have a couple questions in the chat here. It says, what are some of the measurable outcomes or success stories you've seen from these programs? So Josie, I'll let you answer that one.
Because it is a federal program, there is a lot of required reporting. So we keep track of hours spent in classrooms or in daycares, all of the volunteer time. So with foster grandparents, what we're really looking for are their measurable improvements for that child. So did they get to go on to the next grade level? Did they increase their school readiness scores, things like that. So it is very measurable. With senior companions, the same thing. We're always asking our clients, like, has this having this companion, has that kept you out of more costly nursing home care? Has that helped you feel less isolated? Has that helped prevent falls or kept your house cleaner? We really do look at all those measurable actions. I have so many success stories. I'll tell you one that I think is really lovely, though. We had a woman come to us, Amanda, and she was 80, and she said, I'd like to give back. And we said, okay, that's cool. Come on, we got something for you. And for 20 years, she was a foster grandma in the Gadsden County school system. And on her 100th birthday, she said, I think I'd like to retire. We said, that's fair. And so we threw her a 100th birthday party where she was up dancing and she was amazing. But who attended that but a Gadsden County Sheriff's deputy? He was one of the children she had mentored and tutored when she was in the school system. And he came back to give back to grandma because she had really shown him kindness and what education can give back to him. So I have a lot of success stories, but that one always, I think it touches so many points. And what these programs provide is, you know, you're never too old to give back. You're never too old to feel purposeful, to make an impact in the lives of others. But really, you are making an impact in the lives of others through these programs.
Yeah. You're useful, you know, just because you're older doesn't mean that, or you've, you know, in so many ways, your youth is not there, but you're still useful. Another question says, what does this situation reveal about the way we fund and value elder focused community service programs in America?
I would just say, like, just an overarching, when we look at these cuts, it's very short-sighted, right? So revoking this money now, there might be some perceived savings for the government. However, in the long run, the impacts are going to be so much more costly. The remedy is going to cost us a lot more than what upfront these programs provide. Again, that's why they've been around for over 60 years, because we know that there is value to those programs.
Yeah. And that impact, you know, I'm like, is it really saving? Is it really saving if you're going to lose that much in the long run? And the final question that I see here in the chat, it says, how can local organizations or state governments step up if the federal government does not act? And that is one of the questions I too had. So thank you for asking that question. But God forbid, but if these funds don't come through, what can these local organizations and our local or state government, what can we do to fill that gap?
That's a great question. So these volunteers serve in this capacity and in this structure through the America Serves Act, which allows for stipended volunteers. I've really looked into, can we circumvent AmeriCorps, essentially is what we would be doing, right? If we're going to fund it ourselves. And there really is no way to do that. To offer a stipend to a volunteer, it has to go through that America Serves Act. So truly, these volunteers that are relying on the stipend, I mean, they can't all become greeters at stores, right? Like what's going to happen with that? Also, if you follow like local politics, there really isn't, a huge surplus of funding that can go to cover this cut. There isn't, we do our own fundraising here already, which covers critical needs. To ask a local organization to now suddenly raise almost an additional $1 million, it's unfathomable and it's unobtainable. So what will happen? The programs will go away and people will suffer. That's just the bottom line of it.
Wow. So not even volunteers at this point will that help, in the event that the funds don't come in, especially we talk about Kids Incorporated. Outside of the grandparents, foster grandparents, do you all allow other volunteers to come in? Okay.
So even outside of that, we can have volunteers. One of the supports that Elder Care Services did for Kids Incorporated is they help to put the foster grandparents through training so that they would be considered in ratio. And so we would then have to take on that work of getting all of our volunteers, because they volunteer for over 10 hours a month. And so because we are licensed through the Department of Children and Families, we have to have any volunteer that comes in over 10 hours a month that would have to go through DCF training, or Department of Children and Families training, through the child care licensing system. And so that was part of our partnership with Elder Care, is they took all of our foster grandparents through the DCF training so that they would get the necessary certification to be in the classroom for over 10 hours a month. And so that impact is great there. But we can still accept volunteers. We would just have to try it a different way as far as that training aspect for volunteers that would want to come in over 10 hours a month.
Yeah. So ultimately, to answer that last question, there's really not anything that can be done. We just go back to what Josie said. We lose these programs. And that is what we absolutely do not and cannot afford to happen, because it's going to impact both sides of this. As she stated earlier, some of these seniors, they are on what we know as a fixed income. They're only getting so much. And so that $4 a month may not mean much to somebody who's making a lot. And then the other side is what I'm realizing more and more, these seniors don't always have support by family. They don't have family support. And so you're trying to just simply do something good, because it does help them emotionally as well, right? But you're trying to do something good, and also being able to, because we all know prescription drugs, they're going up too. Prescriptions, and now you're also talking about higher utility bills. Who can deal with that, right? And so you take that away, that's just more suffering that's going to happen. And so that's why conversations like these are very, very important, because we want people to understand that no, this is not just something that we are watching or hearing on the news. This is happening. This is not something that's going to happen. It is happening. And it is very important. Hey, Paula's on the line. She put a comment in here, says both very worthy organizations that impact our lives, or someone who you know closely. We all have to contact our senators today. And that's exactly where we are going with this, right? That's my next question to you, Josie. What is it? We're on here, we're listening. What can we do as a community, as those that are listening now, those who will listen later? What can we do to help this situation right now?
That's a great question. And I loved your sentiment at the beginning of this chat, that we elect folks to represent the community needs, right? Like how we want to see our community formed. And so we're really asking folks to make calls on behalf of these programs. We make an email, you send an email, like they need to know that there are people that care about what is happening here. There's been some success in other states for getting this message out and getting their local electeds to reach out to OMB and ask about these funds being impacted. And I think LaFonda also really highlighted what it means about these programs too. A lot of people think, oh, volunteers, oh, it's just free, right? Like there's so much coordination. We got to find the folks that want to do this. Is it a good fit? We have to screen them. We have to train them. So these volunteer programs, like, the $4 an hour is so impactful for these seniors, but really like the program itself is such a efficient, like well-oiled machine that gives back to the community. When you call your legislators, they're keeping track of how many people are calling, and they're conveying that. The staff is conveying that to the elected official. So if we think that, what does my voice count? What does my vote count? It really does. It adds up. When we have people reach out on our behalf, they're taking down how many people called about these programs. So we're just encouraging people, like, let's keep the conversation going. Let's stay in their ear that this is what we want to see happen in our community. And hopefully, we'll break free of this impoundment.
Yeah. And I don't want anybody to ever think that your voice doesn't matter. One thing that I have done, and I think I do well, is advocate for these causes. For me, it's been Alzheimer's and dementia. And now, even because all of this, it matters, right? I said earlier when I went live to ask people to join in, one thing that my mom and my grandmother used to say religiously all the time: you're going to get old one day, right? We think that as young people, we're going to just be young forever, right? And that these things won't impact us. But I go hard the way I do, one, out of my love, out of wanting to educate and help, other people to understand what it looks like, but also understanding that if the sun keeps going up and coming down, we are going to be in this same situation. We are going to be seniors if we live, and we would want and need somebody to fight for us. And so every phone call, every email, every day, every hour, it matters. Your email may be the one email that makes the absolute difference. And so don't ever think, well, oh, they're not going to listen, or it's simple as picking up the phone. I put it up here earlier. I'm going to put it up here again. But when in this particular area here, our legislators, you have Senator Rick Scott, Senator Ashley Moody, Representative Neil Dunn. That's their information. I'm going to share it again. It is already on the social media page on Facebook. All you have to do is contact them. I happen to already have them in my email because I contact them a lot for Alzheimer's. But yeah, just call, send an email, do it once a day. Once a day, call. Sometimes it's leaving a message. Sometimes you get a person and just explain. And if I'm not mistaken, Josie, there's a link on the Elder Care Services page on your page where there's a script. If you don't know what to say, there's a script. And trust me, we use scripts for because sometimes people just don't know what to say. So you have the words. If you're saying, well, I don't know what to tell them, there's a script. There is a script. All you have to do is call, make it sound believable. Now, don't go and sound like you're reading. You can read over it ahead of time. But at the end of the day, what is needed more than anything else is for you to contact these representatives. Contact them. They represent us. That's what we elected them to do. And so if it means that I am going to aggravate you to no end, that's what we have to do. We just, it's that important. It's that important. It's elder care that we are aware of on this platform. I mean, there's others. I was telling them earlier, prior to me coming on, listening to the news, I believe it was Georgia. Florida's not going to be far behind, I promise you. But 21st century, the 21st century program, that's being impacted. 21st century is after school care. A lot of parents take advantage of 21st century. When that goes away, what does that look like? You have families who depend on that because your children, you have to work and your children need after school care. So these same representatives, we're probably going to be calling them for a whole lot. But right now, what we need for you to do and the purpose of this, all of this is at stake. These service programs, Josie, I know you've already had to let go right now. I think it was last week before last. You've already, because of this funding not coming in, you've already had employees that you've had to let go. Share a little bit of that, just so people understand that right here. This is not California, Texas, this is right here in our local community. Probably a lot more than I'm aware of, but that impact, because I happen to be, friends on Facebook with this person and I know them, that hit really hard. So just a little bit, what does that look like for your office, even at this point?
That could make me cry on the live. Yeah, it's very, very disheartening to see people that have dedicated literally decades of their life to serving others suddenly be without a home. 2 employees were impacted by these cuts. 2 people I respect tremendously and that are very caring, and you would be so lucky to have them take care of like somebody in your family, take care of your kids. They just are tremendous individuals that really push that program forward. And that's the harsh reality is that, and I love what you said earlier too. It's not just some, strange concept we're reading about on, on online or hearing about on TV. It's our neighbors that are impacted. It's our elder care family that's impacted. And it's a really devastating time for me personally, but also professionally. And that's why I'm ready to give up. I want to make sure that we get the word out. I'm still making calls. I'm trying to get even more meetings set up. We've done many news segments about this too, just because I think it's so important. And I told them don't go far because I'm really hopeful that we can again try to get some of this funding out of impoundment. But it's been difficult for the elder care family. We've been really upset about this.
Yeah. And I think we all have to be upset enough to make sure that we do what we can do. It's so unfortunate to me all the time and every time when people just wait until it impacts them directly. And it shouldn't have to be that way, where we only get involved when it hits my family, when it
Right.
hits me personally. I'm like, our neighbors, Paula just put that up there. This is real life and impacting our neighbors daily. And it's not just about my family. It's not just about people that I know. This is our community. And so we have to be a people who are concerned. You have to put yourself in people's position and really think about that could have been you walking into your job to be told that you no longer have a job. You still have bills and you still have things you have to, but even beyond that, for somebody to be on a job for 27 years, that's dedication, especially in 2025. People that have given their lives, their heart to what they're doing to find themselves without a job, all because, where we are right now. Another comment: we must also remember these decisions exactly when it's time to vote. It's not just about every 4 years presidential election. You got to do your research and you got to get out and vote for the candidates that best fit what you need, right? It's not about, there is no, and I'm just not going to go there, but there's no one man show, right? This is about all of us. It's elder care services today. Who knows about tomorrow? So that's why this is important. You gotta be able to care enough to make it matter today for elder care services, for Kids Incorporated. Make it matter today as if it were you, because tomorrow it very well could be. Whitney says the TMH Disorder Clinic will continue to support elder care in our local community partners. Saying this from a personal and professional standpoint, we're here for you. Thank you, Whitney. Midterm elections, they're coming up soon. They are coming up soon. And so don't sit home and think that your local elections, your state elections, I would dare to say, are even more important than those, every 4 years, the national, because you see what happens, right? That's the best that I'm going to give on this live. You see exactly what happens when you don't let your voice be heard. So don't sit home. Don't, you got to vote. Do your research and make sure that you're putting people in office that, I know sometimes it's hard to trust quite a few now politicians. That's just the nature of the beast. But, you got to get out and vote. You got to get out and vote. Think about that. And Josie, even as Whitney said it, we're going to do whatever we can do to support, even in this particular time. There's other programs that you all have that we can also partner with. Same with you, LaFonda. Whatever we can do, we're going to help. But right now, what's important and why we wanted to do this live is to help people to understand what this looks like. There's so much at stake. I cannot emphasize that enough. There's so much at stake. You take away these programs, and in some instances, you're taking away life. And we got to care about that. We have to absolutely care about that. We have to care about those babies who, they need that touch. They need that guidance. I'm around just by nature of my job. I see this all the time and it's needed. And so, we have to do the part. We got to do the part that we can do. We have to do the part that we can do. And then Josie, I know I put the script up there, but I'm gonna ask this question. If listeners wrote or called government officials tonight, what words or stories would be most persuasive in urging OMB or Congress to release the AmeriCorps funds immediately? What would you tell them to say tonight to get those funds released?
Tonight, over 100 vulnerable seniors are going to be thrust further into poverty, and hundreds of children are going to be impacted if these funds are held up. So we're encouraging our legislators to speak to OMB and let's get the funds for our area out of impoundment.
All right, there you heard it, you all. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to flash this up again, and I'm going to give you all an opportunity real quick. It'll also be on my webpage, but this is the information. This is how you can help. Contact the legislators, ask them to release the funds. Your voice really does matter. Check out the webpage as well. And I mean, the Facebook page, I am going to put it on my website as well. That website is listed there on the banner. I'm going to put it there as well. And so you will have that information. The script, Josie, I don't know. You let me know, should that script be posted, or I know it's there, but we'll post that as well. Or you can reach out to me, reach out via email. We can email it to you if you need it as well. But do it, at least once a day. Make the phone calls, send the emails, aggravate them as much as they, some of them, I feel like, harassed us for their vote. And so harass them to get these funds released, okay? Because they're important. They're needed. Just because it doesn't impact them directly, and some of them it really does, but you have to wonder, is there any care or concern there sometimes? But we want to be able to do whatever we can do. Whatever it is we can do, we're going to bombard them with, we want them to be overwhelmed, totally overwhelmed, to the point where they just say, I got to do this, until they are really making noise in DC, and really not just saying, because I get the little, responses back, the automated responses. I'm sick of automated responses. I want real responses from those that we elected. Well, some of us elected, let's just say from those in office that are representing us. We want real responses, not just the generated email, but no, I want to know that you are up there doing what you're supposed to do, because we need these programs. We need these the foster grandparent program, the senior companion program. They need the volunteers at Kids Incorporated. You all have heard exactly how much impact this is. And it's not just, we need the money, but it goes beyond the money. Mm-hmm. These are human beings with emotions and feelings. And, we need that support. So do me a favor, share this live, share it as many times as you can. Go on to the pages. Josie's on Facebook. If you all want to, also, I'm going to give you an opportunity to give us some final words. And if you want to just put how people can contact you, reach out if they want to volunteer, they want to get more information, please do that as well. I'm going to give you the opportunity to do that. I'm going to start with you, LaFonda, and with you, Josie, and we'll go from there.
I would just say in final words, this impacts more than just elders, because it impacts from infants all the way to elders. Because keeping in mind, the elders that come into Kids Incorporated, they are there to set some, be role models, to be caregivers and all of those kind of things. And so it impacts more than just the elders themselves, but also those who they serve, because I consider them, we are servant leaders, so I consider them, they service our centers. So they are servant leaders within our centers. And so they impact this just is going just beyond them. And I would just say, as just the piggyback, let's do it, y'all. Let's contact our representatives. Let's contact our senators and just bombard them with the phone calls, with the emails, because keeping in mind, like when the administration first changed, we found out a lot about funds were being held. And guess what? The people spoke. The people went on Capitol Hill. The people called and emailed, and certain funds were released immediately. And so, if we can do the same thing that we did when other programs were jeopardized by funds being held, if we do the same thing, I think we can get some funds released. And so, let's put our feet to the ground and move. Let's put our feet to the ground and move. And so I would admonish you as citizens of our community, let's get out there and make our voice be heard. And so that's what I would say. It not only impacts Kids Incorporated, but it impacts all other programs that receive volunteers from elder care services. It impacts more than just Kids Incorporated.
Josie?
I want to thank both of you for coming alongside us for this fight. I admire you both, and just so much love to you for getting the word out about this. Thank you so much. I don't know if I can top LaFonda. I've always said this too. It's a privilege to get older, right? Like getting old is the goal. And so I love elder care. This is one of our major programs that we have, and to see it be diminished in this way is just so heartbreaking. It really is. When we know that these programs work, they have value, they make your community better. It's really unfortunate what's happening. And so I agree, like if this compels you, if you want to see your community better, you want to see older people, being supported and younger people learning from them, and that beautiful intergenerational relationship, please just make a phone call. I know some people are not comfortable doing that. Emails are good too. We do have all that information on our elder care Facebook page. I'll make sure the script is on there before I go home tonight too. But thank you for coming alongside us for this. And we do have power. I think that one of the tools used sometimes is to make us feel despondent and helpless. And we have to hold each other up and remember that we have power and that our voices should be heard on the things that matter to us. So again, Priscilla, thank you so much for having me on and for amplifying this.
Absolutely. My pleasure. We have one additional question before I give my final remarks. Links and donate. They want links to donate and or volunteer with the organization. So if you all would share that, that would be great information. Especially, it's always good when people want to donate. Donate their time, their finances, as well as their time. So please provide that information as well.
And Priscilla, what I will say too is if you want to volunteer with Kids Incorporated, our website is www.kidsincorporated.org, and that's spelled all the way out, www.kidsincorporated.org. Or you can email us at info, and that's info @kidsincorporated.org. If you would like to connect with our organization via phone, that is 850-414-9800. And you could just dial the extension for our volunteer specialist. So you'll have to just listen to the prompts. I can't think of the extension right off the top of my head right now, but our volunteer person will get back with you just dialing our main number. So those are ways that you can get connected with us. And through our website, you can make donations or you can fill out an application to volunteer with our program.
All right. Sounds good. What about elder care services, Josie?
Very similar. So we're eldercarebigbend.org. All our information is on there if you want to donate online. Our main phone number is 850-921-5554. I do a lot of community presentations if that is of interest to anybody, if you'd like to get the word out about getting more people interested in coming alongside what we're up to. I would love to do that too. So eldercarebigbend.org is where you can find us. We also have a nice Facebook presence. So more information about those contact numbers and emails are on there. The script is on there. And we are trying to keep people up to date in real time through our Facebook page.
Okay. Sounds good. Ladies, thank you again so much for taking out of your time to be on here to share this information tonight. LaFonda, again, I know you're out for the month, so it was an honor for you to just come on tonight. And as we stated earlier, the whole purpose is so that people will understand what we are facing, what we're looking at. I'm just going to leave you by saying, please don't ever think that your voice does not matter. Your advocacy matters more than you know. Your email, your phone call may be that final one to push it over. So join the cause, join the fight. Let's walk beside elder care services as if, we ourselves were employed there, as if we ourselves were impacted, because reality is we are. They're impacted, and so are we. They are our neighbor. They are our friends, they're our family. And so we have to look at every single one like that. So take the moment tonight. If you have time tonight, send that email, make that phone call. The information is on the website. It'll be on the website, rather. It's on the Facebook page already. I'm going to update my website to include it as well. And we want you to join us in this fight. It's at stake right now, but we have an opportunity to make a difference. We have an opportunity to make our voice heard and make those who we have elected hear us and do what they need to do. Thank you all again for joining us. And we'll do another live soon. In the meantime, I will also say, go ahead, for those of you that have been following, go ahead and follow the podcast. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and of course on the website at PriscillaJJunlewicz.com. There are resources out there. It is for all caregivers, and causes like this dear to my heart, not just because they impact, but because they too are important. So you'll find all that information on our website. Share the website, the podcast. If you're a caregiver, if you know somebody that's a caregiver, or you just want a good podcast to listen to, I highly recommend my favorite Girl Caregivers Corner podcast. Thank you again for joining us, and we appreciate you. Have a great evening.